We're still here, and this is the coverage of the NPP parliamentary primaries being conducted in 167 constituencies across the country. And we have identified some constituencies here and labeled them as constituencies to watch or hotspots, some 18 of them. Alfred earlier on took us through some 4 of those constituencies. Now we have in the studio, as I introduced earlier, Mr. Ben Efson, a pollster and the managing editor of the Daily Dispatch, also Dr. Ali Duseidu. He is a senior lecturer with the Department of Political Science at the University of Ghana. We're going to be analyzing these constituencies as we go along. Now, Mr. Ben Efson, let me start with you. Navrongo Central, when we look at that, we have 2 ministers of state coming up against each other, talking about Mr. Joseph Kofi Adda, Minister for Aviation, and Tangoba Abayage, that's the Upper East Regional Minister. And we do know that Navrongo Central is quite closely contested when it comes to national level elections. Your thoughts on this? How are you seeing this particular primary is going to play out?
Thank you. You know, the MPP, they have a conflict resolution committee headed by the Chief of Staff, Madam Opari, and the other 2 are former National Chairman Mark Menu and the Chairman of the Council of Elders, Mr. Hakman Ousu. Now, this is a place that they will have to do a lot of work. The nature of insults that are being heaped across, especially from supporters of Mr. Adda against the regional minister. For legal reasons, I can't repeat them on air.
Definitely.
But I think Mr. Adda will win.
Okay.
In the aftermath, if the Conflict Resolution Committee does not, I repeat, does not find a way of mending fences, the NDC candidate, Samson, will take the seat on December 7th. That's how deep that acrimony has been.
Right. And definitely talking about mending fences, that's definitely one of the things the party should be looking out for post the elections, because at the end of the day, you're looking at cohesion to help you win the national elections, presidential and both parliamentary. And so that is definitely something that they cannot shy away from. But again, history tells us, I mean, we learn from history that indeed these kinds of things don't necessarily augur well for parties, but we see it happening. Question then is, don't we learn?
I think that both the politicians, the MPs to be, and the delegates, they learn and they don't learn. In this particular place, you know, the regional minister is from the area, but has stayed in Western region all the time. And he was made the ambassador to Italy. And I think that in furtherance of her desire to contest, was brought down and made the regional minister. Now, that's one of the hotspots we have been watching for the past 6 months. What she did was to try and get the constituency executives on her side. And like you said, Mr. Adda, this is his 4th attempt.
Right.
So Mr. Adda had been dealing directly with the delegates, sending monies to them directly. Whatever he does is for them. Now, the way the insults are, one thing people tend to forget is that disease called apathy. If it's Bantama, for example, and Ochem supporters refuse to vote, they want to stay at home, that's a very safe seat for the MPP. But in a constituency like Navrongo Central, you get even 10% deciding that, then, as the Chief will say, Ebekokona Enko through, they will not get up and go and vote.
Right.
Then I think that this is a seat that the conflict resolution committee must keep their eyes
attention
on.
Very well.
The insults are so bad.
Right.
But I can't repeat them.
Definitely not. We'll not do that. But let's take a walk down memory lane and take a look at the day when the regional minister, Madam Tangomba, went to file her nominations for these primaries. Let's take a look at that and then come to Dr. Ali Duseidu for his perspectives as well.
A large crowd followed her. The huge crowd paid a visit to the overlord of Navrungu traditional area, Dennis Balenia Asapari II, to seek for the blessings of the gods of Navrungu. The crowd finally arrived at the constituency office where she submitted her forms, including an amount of 50,000 Ghana cedis as filing fee. A member of the election committee urged delegates to be mindful of their comments and help promote peace and unity in the party, irrespective of who wins the primaries. The regional minister is the fourth woman who has ever contested in the party's primaries in the Navrungu Central constituency since 1992. Speaking with the media after filing of nominations, the regional minister, Patience Tangoba Abayege, thanked the constituency executives and the polling station executives for their support and assured them of her cooperation to develop the party's structures.
We are going to lead an issue-based, policy-based, manifesto-based, pragmatic, bold, decisive. We are a very strong force. We are a strong home. All we need is to get together. All we need is to be united. All we need is love. All we need is patience. All we need is to look for the welfare of each other.
She said her campaign is void of unpleasant language because the unity of the party is paramount in retaining the seat. 592 delegates in the constituency are expected to cast their votes on April 25, 2020.
Right, so that was the regional minister there, Madame Tangoba Abayage, and she went to file her nominations there. And also, if you will recall, there were reports about some controversies around the filing of nominations regarding Mr. Joseph Kofi Adda, where he went to the constituency in a helicopter. We are trying to get that report. When we get it, we will play that and then we'll see that. But Doc, how, looking at the dynamics, like I indicated, that whole controversy about, Mr. Adda going there in a helicopter and everything, how does that, work out into this whole mesh of controversy we have? And how do you think that is going to impact the outcome, if at all?
So I think there's a lot of power play. In most cases where you have a minister of state contesting any other person, there's unequal balance of power. Sometimes political influence, to some extent monetary power, is usually in favor of the minister or the incumbent compared to the other ordinary candidate. But this is a case where you're having two of the contestants all being ministers of state.
Right.
So there's some level, a balance of power in terms of political influence, but maybe in terms of their ability to save money to be able to contest. So in fiercely contested seats of this kind, there's likely going to be serious acrimonious campaign.
Right.
I'm very pleased when she filed her nomination. She talked about the fact that she's going to campaign based on issues and based on policies. If we are able to shift the discourse of electoral campaigns from personal attacks and vindictiveness to looking at policies and what we can offer the people when we are given the chance, we're going to have a very decent campaigning.
Right.
But even if these contestants themselves don't insult, it becomes very difficult for them to win on their supporters to stop insulting. And if you look at the statistics on the screen, you see that only 12% of the contestants are women. Especially in this our political context where women think politics is more vindictive, politics is more abusive, politics is more acrimonious. They want to stay away. And we want to do everything to encourage equal women participation in our political discourse. So on this particular score, you see that she's coming from a kind of underrepresented group and she's proposing to have an issue-based campaign. But you cannot say the same for her supporters and the supporters of the Honorable Minister for Aviation. So I think largely, like my uncle said, beneficent, we need to be very mindful of the utterances that we make, because the intra-party democracy deepening process has the potential to affect the inter-party contest.
Right.
That will happen in December. And if you are not able to win on our supporters, most of the unprintable words that we use against candidates will become the tool of our
will be
opponents
used against, yes.
in our December elections. You see, one of the perspectives of political theories who largely speak against primaries is the fact that they say primaries lead to two important things. Even if you are the winning candidate of your party, one, it leaves you so bruised and so insulted and so maligned that your political party members hand over an insulting tool, a campaign tool to your opponents to be able to deal with you. That's one. But two, you are forced to spend so much money in the primaries that even when you win the elections, you end up penniless to be able to face the major elections. So primaries are usually the choice before the choice. But if you are not able to handle and manage things very well at that particular level, it will have a
implications
greater
for the final
impact,
choice.
definitely.
Right. Now let's take a look at the story that was put together around what I earlier indicated about the Honorable Minister of State Joseph Kofi Adda having to file his nomination and doing so in a helicopter, which obviously generated some controversy. Let's take a look at that story and we will return to our panelists in studio.
Every year, the constituency attracts eyeballs due to the candidates who contest the seat. The aviation minister and MP for Navrongo Central, Kofi Adda, arrived from Tamale in an Air Force helicopter. He led energetic party faithful through some principal streets of Navrongo amid singing and drumming as a way of support and loyalty. He presented his filing fee of 20,000 cedis and other supporting documents to the Constituency Election Committee. Speaking to the media after filing his nominations, he sounded unperturbed about his close contender, who is the Upper East Regional Minister.
I think what is happening betrays the lack of leadership, the lack of elders being able to do what is required to build unity in the party in Navrongo. And that's why we've got one person opposing me. Otherwise, given the fact that we've been able to withstand opposition and come back to power under my leadership, one would have expected that they'll say, well, allow Honorable Kofi Adda to go one more time.
A member of the election committee asked supporters to maintain peace in the party. The Navrongo Central seat is a swing seat. The last time the NDC won the seat was in 2012 by the former Defense Minister Mark Weyongo. The current Minister for Aviation, Kofi Adda, recaptured the seat in 2016 after earlier serving 2 terms from 2003 to 2012 through a by-election.
So there you saw the Minister for Aviation showing that indeed he is the Minister for Aviation going to file his nomination in a helicopter, talking about the power play that was actually going on there regarding the two contestants or candidates vying for that seat, the incumbent Mr. Kofi Adda and the Upper East Regional Minister, Madam Tangoba Abayage. Now we've been moving on to Bantama to look at the dynamics there as well. But before that, your predictions, Kofi Adda, Madam Tangoba Abayage, Dr. Ali Seidu, what do you think?
It will be very difficult without any scientific evidence to predict who is going to win.
But looking
the Honorable Minister for Aviation is the incumbent, so he may.
No, she is. No, she's the regional minister.
No, the Honorable Minister for Aviation, is
sorry,
the incumbent.
Very well, yes.
And you may think that he will have so much to do with the delegates, but it is very surprising in election in this country that things can happen the opposite way. So I think, for me, maybe Uncle Ben will be able to do a good prediction. I wouldn't be able to.
Okay, so let me pass it on to.
Yes, I think that we'll be monitoring that constituency. And I think Mr. Adda will win. You know, what he had done, the regional minister had the constituency executives on her side. And Mr. Adda further antagonized the executives by not passing goodies through them. So like monies, you send mobile money to their phones. Fertilizer, you send it direct to them. So Mr. Adda is very likely to win. But in the aftermath, will they turn out and vote on December 7th, the supporters of the regional minister?
Right, that's ultimately the question we need to answer. But, well, let's move on now to look at Bantama, where we have the incumbent MP, Daniel Ochema-Boaji. He is a first-term MP, and he defeated his predecessor, Kwabena Kukufu, at the primaries in the last polls. Now, he's coming up against one of the deputy chiefs of staff, Mr. Francis Asenso-Boakye. That's one area where the competition is very, 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 very fierce. Dr. Ali Seidu, your thoughts on this? How do you see this play out? Bantama originally used to be Bantama and Ishayaso, and then it was broken down into two in 2004. And it's maintained, it's a safe seat, you could say so. But the dynamics here are quite interesting. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so if you, the safer the seat for a specific political party, the fiercest the primaries for that particular party. So you see that in Bantama, for example, the major election is the primaries of the MPP candidate, and not what's going to happen in December. So you can see that everybody is putting their widow's might to be able to secure. If you look at the history, Daniel Abaji won the primaries and then became a first-time MP. And Asensu is contesting him. Asensu is also a very powerful person. Being the deputy chief of staff gives him a lot of influence, a lot of networks to be able to use to either undermine or project, undermine the other candidate or project his power play. So basically, I think I am always against the fact that we should protect sitting MPs. I believe sitting MPs works at the constituency must speak for them. And if we allow this to happen, especially encouraging the young and upcoming ones to contest, then everybody will know that parliamentary business is a serious business. If you go there, you have to put up your best, and you don't forget your constituencies and go back to them in the next 3 years. Even though we have a lower level of women participating, 12% compared to 88%. But I think the dynamics of the youth who are contesting in this particular case is very, very, very high. And it is so encouraging. I think all the political parties must give them the opportunity. So I can't predict again. But I still think it's going to be one of the fiercest fights that we all have to watch out for.
Right. Now, Mr. Benefson, quick one, still on Bantama. You have a first-time MP there who is being fiercely contested by no mean a person, but one of the deputy chiefs of staff, and the questions as to why some of the first-time MPs have been protected, but we don't have the same play out for other areas, particularly looking at Bantama. That's one key example of where the first-time MP has been left, as it were, on their own to fend for themselves. What do you make of that whole, dynamics playing out there?
64% of those going on a post are ministers of state.
Yes.
In January, I had a tip-off that there was going to be an attempt to protect sitting MPs. So in the January 20th issue of my newspaper, we started cautioning the MPP that if that happens, you are going to get apathy. People will not go out and vote like in safe seats. So if, for example, you have 100 safe seats and these things happen, and 4,000 decide not to vote because they won 2016 by a margin of 15,000. We're talking about the possibility of countrywide in their 100 safe seats, the president also losing 400,000 votes. Fast forward, I find it very interesting that Mr. Ochem is crying wolf. Publicly, he had pleaded with Mr. Asenso to let him go the second time. And you should bear in mind that Mr. Asenso is not in parliament. He has contested Bantama before. And everywhere, a president going on his second and final term is a dangerous president, in quotes. Dangerous in the sense that he doesn't need your support again. So the president could be ruthless and sack you. That is why quite a number of appointees are going to go, are trying to get into parliament in case the president decides to dispense with their services. I think that it is not whether Asensu will win. It's going to be the margin of victory for Asensu.
Right. So you think it's a done deal for Asensu?
Yes.
But you think the margin is going to be? Or you think it's going to be a landslide?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. We look out for that to see how that would actually also play out. We have our correspondent in the Ashanti region currently in Bantama, Evans Inkum. And yeah, he's on here. We'll be speaking to him. Good morning, Evans. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you.
How are you doing? Hello? Okay, so a bit of a technical hitch there. We'll come back. Hello, yes, Evans, can you hear me? Great.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. So bring us up to speed before we have the hitches again. So quickly, what's happening there? You're in Bantama constituency. Tell us precisely where you are and, tell us what's happening.
That means that we have opportunity to be stable in Parliament.
Yeah, hello.
When we have started.
Yes,
And,
Evans. Hello.
Well, so that is the incumbent member of Parliament for Bantama who just cast his vote. Here is the cultural center electoral area, which of course is the polling center. He's been addressing the media. Very soon I'll just get closer to him, so he tells us what he makes of this whole exercise. But I can tell you that so far it's been a very smooth exercise. As far as this particular primaries is concerned, in the Bantama constituency, we are talking about some 610 delegates who will be trooping to 9 electoral areas of polling centers to cast their vote. Where I am now, some 28 delegates will be voting, and that's a chunk of them are executives of the Bantama constituency. For now, I can say that it has been a very smooth exercise, despite the fact that there's so much tension as far as Bantama is concerned. But like I said, let me just get closer and speak to the incumbent member of Parliament for Bantama constituency, Daniel Ochem Abwaje. This must be an important exercise to you.
Well, it is. No competition is easy. It is an important exercise. Yes.
Now, one would say within the last couple of days, it's like the whole narrative has changed between you and then the former member of Parliament, Daniel Kokofu. Was it part of the tactics?
It's not Daniel Kokofu. Is it Daniel Kokofu?
I'm talking about Henry Kokofu.
Okay. Well, no. I mean, I think, unfortunately, we expected something better than what he's been doing recently. You know, when I took him off, I brought 5 important people to power. With the help of other people, we were able to bring President Kufuor to power. In terms of Bantama specifically, we got a deputy chief of staff. We got me. We got Sisi Adapa. And we got himself, who is the deputy CEO of a company. So if you are input,
hello, Evans. Evans, if I may, can you position yourself while we are? I think the camera is taking over. Yes. Great.
In 2016. And look at what the government has been doing. The blessing the government has been to the country. I think he still holds some pains. He decided to support one candidate against me. I can't fault him. It's his choice. What I don't like about what he does is he insult my persona. You know, that's where I have issues. But at the right time, we'll deal with that.
Now let's talk about Bantama constituency. Well, this particular constituency, just like any other strongholds of the New Patriotic Party, beginning from 1996 when Winfred Richard Anane held this seat, from that time to 2004 when 2 other constituencies were carved out of the Bantama constituency. Of course, the current Minister for Water and Sanitation, Sabna Dapa, took over till 2012 when Kokofu took over. Now the narrative has changed. One term. Are you seeking to change the narrative or restore the narrative again? Because Bantama is not known for that.
Well, the decision is the decision of the people. There's so many things that I have done that I think probably people don't see or have not been well communicated. Not because I didn't want to, but because probably it was a matter of time. Because you have to run for parliament, speak for the government, go on committee programs and activities, and do whatever. I mean, travel internationally to support some government programs and negotiations. So it's not everything that you do as a member of parliament that you will have opportunity to see. So it is always something you have to tell them all the time. Otherwise, if you should take a look at the book I just distributed a couple of days ago, which is about 116-page document, I can pinpoint to you over 130 projects, programs, and activities that I have done in the area of political.
Well, we will try to reconnect with Evans Nimako there. Okay, I think it's back, so let's have it.
Area of education, relationships with society, good governance, international parliamentary roles, things I've done, international representations. And that will tell you this is a serious MP. It's unprecedented in our history.
Will you be disappointed if at the end of the day, the majority of the people say, yes, you have come, you've served, but we want somebody else to continue the job?
I will never be disappointed. Never. We relocated from America to support Ghana. Before we joined politics, we're doing other things privately to support the youth. We have companies or group of companies that employs over 600 people as I speak to you. And some of them we have done for more than 16 years, 13 years. So if for any reason we have to get back to it and work it, why not? No problem. I will never be disappointed. I'm not one of the few people probably that are in this for money. I am in politics to move the Ghana development agenda forward. So I will not be disappointed, because for me, may the will of God be done. For me, may the best person win. As long as it's won fairly, people have spoken.
I can only wish you the very best of everything. Thank you.
But
very
Evans,
much.
Evans, hold on. Before you let him go, please, I have another question for him, so don't let him go yet. Can you find out from him for us? You know, he did say in his submission that ultimately the decision lies with the people, but we do also know that he had actually begged the Ashanti Regional NPP chair to declare him as an unopposed candidate. Now, how is he able to reconcile that? Can you find out for us?
So you said that the decision, the ultimate decision, lies with the people of Bantama who are deciding today.
Yes.
But prior to this particular campaign, there was a time that you even begged the Ashanti Regional chairman of the party to help you win, retain your seat. How do you respond to that?
I think you are probably the one that actually came to my office and took the news, that narrated it to you. So when my people actually saw your channel and what they said, they were very happy. I didn't kneel down. We were having a meeting down there, right there at Patakasia's area. And the regional executives come to say, we want to have a conversation with their delegates. The next thing you see, the regional chairman is on his knees, begging for the party, and begging for himself, and begging for his colleagues, just in case he's offended anybody, that the upcoming election 2020, we should all find a way to unite and work. And he went down on his knees, as the regional chairman. He has gone down on his knees, and you are the host MP. These very same people will determine your fate. The same people will also be voting on you, and also in support of what he did. And I got to my turn to speak. I emulated him, and that's about it. But when I told him that if he is considering people, we think we have done very well. We have an MP that holds the historic record of election votes, general election votes, 89%, which is me. Okay, Bantama, Florida, from 1996 to 2016. It is my time that we won almost 89%, from 83%.
So you knelt down at that time to
I knelt down
emulate what the regional chairman had done
to the people, to the delegates that were there. That is important,
to vote for you when the time comes.
Vote for me, and also just to support what the chairman was doing. I wasn't begging him, but while I was in the process, I just asked him if he's going to do people, because of the hard work we have done, the role we are playing to support the government spokesperson, an effective fair-timer who is doing well in Parliament, why not?
He should also support you to go on a post.
That's what happened.
Evans, Evans, one last question for him regarding the allegations of vote buying. He's made allegations against his competitor that he's been, attempting to buy votes and all. Asenso has categorically disputed that. What does he say to that?
All right. So the issue of vote buying has also erupted as far as Bantama constituency is concerned. You even made an allegation.
Yes.
Asenso team has also come out to debunk or refute that allegation.
Yes.
What is your response to what they said, that they never engaged in any sort of vote buying?
Well, that is debatable. All the things we are hearing, people are getting a lot of monies, Abuja, people are getting trips abroad, and 1 week for 3 days and all that.
But in 2015, you also kind of enticed.
I didn't do that. What you didn't understand in 2016, what I came here,
the sharing of cars.
I wasn't sharing of cars.
But
Hello? Okay, there we go again with another technical hitch. Okay.
And I'm a businessman. I'm a very creative and strategist. That's not the problem. Every party activity is money issue. Why don't you provide them work and pay? It was not free. Provide them the means, no interest for 2 years.
So the cars you shared was meant for work and pay.
Work and pay, so that they will have enough money to finance their party activities and their welfare.
And will you admit that also influenced some way, somehow, the voting pattern?
I didn't. Because how could you be giving a car worth about 200,000 and the vote difference is 32? The vote difference is 32.
But we also have a case where somebody also donated cars, never won, and he took the cars back.
Well, you see, exactly. So that even supports the fact that people didn't vote because of the cars. No.
Yes, so you see,
because they knew they were going to pay for it.
So then what it means that then you also have no moral right to also kind of criticize as allegedly.
I am not. You are the one that is asking the question. And I'm just telling you what I've heard.
Right, Evans. Evans, one last one. Would he be prepared to declare his support for Asenso should Asenso win?
Yes,
I think that we can end with that.
All right. So my final question: will you be prepared to throw your support behind Asenso should he win?
Why not? I'm a mature politician, and I expect the same thing from him if I should win. I expect him because especially given the limited amount of time that we have for the upcoming 2020, we cannot continue to drag any differences. Unless it's really, really bad, that is what can create a problem. If it's bad, and there are options we can take and we cannot have a resolution, then we will push it to the end. Otherwise, if it is free and fair, come on. You can expect me to embrace and expect him to embrace if he should lose the election today.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Abna,
yes.
That was the incumbent member of parliament for Bantama constituency. So, as you can see, everything is set. The voting has started. When you get here, you have to go through the safety protocol, that is washing of hands. From there, you just wipe your, moisturized hands, get your hands sanitized before you go through the voting process.
Okay.
Over here, we are talking about 28 delegates who are expected to vote at the cultural center electoral area, if you like, polling center. In all, we are talking about over 600 delegates who are voting to decide among the two, the incumbent member of parliament, Daniel Ochem Abuaje, and of course, the deputy chief of staff, Asenso Boache.
Right. Now, thank you so much, Evans, for that interview. We are grateful for that. We will be coming back to you as and when we need to. Thank you. Great. So, definitely. I mean, quite a lot emerged from that interview. Quite a lot. So, please have a go at that.
I like the question you asked about sorry, I like his answer about the delegates decides, and he has no power to control what the delegates decides. I agree that delegates have the ultimate decision, but our actions and inactions can influence the way delegates vote, positively or negatively. That is why we are very careful in setting precedents, especially negative precedents in our electoral discourse. If you did something to win an election, whether negative or positive, one day somebody will do the same thing to you.
Oh, it's just an order of life.
It is just the order of life. So basically, unless we are being hypocritical about it, once we begin to undermine one candidate and win, definitely one day somebody will undermine you. If you're able to provide the kind of support that people need to be able to win and conduct your elections in a more decent, decorous manner, people will definitely pay you back in the same kind. So I think, largely speaking, the Bantama constituency is one of the constituencies that the MPP conflict resolution mechanism will have to
definitely
pay so much attention to, because it is already very hot.
Getting hot.
And I believe the results these accusations can affect the acceptability and the genuinity of the results.
Definitely. Now, Mr. Efson, again, you raised the issue about his predecessor, Honorable Kukufu. And in that interview he had with Evans, it came out clearly he appears pained by the fact that Honorable Kukufu is not, necessarily didn't throw his weight behind him, but he did. He took Honorable Kukufu off, and so I'm wondering, typically, what would you expect from that? Well, your thoughts on that?
Granted that in case Asensu wins, and 2024, Ochamwaji is not going, definitely he will not support Asensu. He's going to support whoever.
Stranger things have happened though, so you never know.
But you see, when I see such fierce battles for very safe seats, it makes me wonder when I hear members of parliament cry that, oh, there's nothing there. For crying out loud, I've never heard any court sentence somebody that I hereby sentence you to be a member of parliament if there's nothing there. In January 2021, the MP's ex gratia is estimated to be 510,000 cedis for 4 years' work. Where would we get that? So you can see how acrimonious the campaigns are for very safe seats. And if there's nothing there, you go 1 term, 2 term, then you chicken out. So they know what they get. That is
the thing is not like he said. It's not for the development of the constituency. You think it's for something else.
Politicians, I'm sure one day, if we all go to heaven and hell, we see many of them in hell will be politicians.
Right, but quickly, let's touch on something he said, and then we'll move on to the Greater Accra region, and then look at the constituencies that are also on our list of constituencies to watch. He talked about. We asked him a question about vote buying. He had made allegations that his competitor was trying to buy votes and doing all sorts of things. But in his response, it also emerged that he had. Actually, he said he shared cars, and it was for the people who gave them to use as a work and pay basis. Obviously, trying to justify that, but would that be a good justification, Doc Seydu, and then I go to Mr.
So I talked about this whole concept of precedent setting. You see, when you do something that's not right, and somebody's doing the same thing, you shouldn't blame him, though it's not right. Politics is a fair game, but it's the players who make it unfair. So the kind of card you play, the strategy that you use, is something that can undermine the sincerity of the process. And that is why we have to be very careful that we don't set negative precedents. Vote buying has been part of our political discourse since day one. And most of our electoral laws are against vote buying. Simply because it undermines the genuineness of the process, but also the independence of the electorate to choose a person who has the qualification and the credibility to be able to lead. So once you allow these things to enter into our body politic, it undermines the sincerity of the process, but also it elects people who don't have the ability and the experience to be able to lead well. So over the years, you've heard about people complaining that the parliament we had in the first or second parliament in the Fourth Republic was so, it was so inspiring. when you hear the quality of arguments that was coming out compared to what we have now. Because I'm not saying at that time there were not elements of vote buying, but I think the magnitude has increased now. So we end up electing people who are not qualified compared to their competitors, but who have a lot of resources to be able to influence the delegates being elected. And when they go, they spend so much time trying to recoup the money that they have spent, rather than spending so much time in the parliamentary business. So over the years, once we do not stop this process, we are going to see the quality of debate in our parliament and parliamentary processes definitely going down.
Because at the end of the day, it's the highest bidder who
definitely,
and
not the most qualified.
The competence, exactly. And that's something we need to really look at. But we had an interview, exclusive interview for that matter, with the majority leader of Parliament, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, and he touched on the issue about vote buying. Let's take a listen to what he said, and then we'll come back to Mr. Benefson for his thoughts on the issue about vote buying. Let's take a listen to the majority leader in Parliament.
Of politics in this country, where people who may not necessarily be qualified will come up and afford, as you put it, cola to the electorates to make a decision on them beyond those who are qualified. What do you say?
I hear all manner of things, but sometimes you go to the ground, it's not like that.
There are also reports, Honorable, that some individuals who are contesting are sharing as much as 3,000 Ghana cedis, some dishing out fridges and laptops and phones and all of that. What are you sharing?
I'm not sharing.
Nothing at all?
I'm not sharing.
Nothing in water?
Oh, well, those things I do. For instance, these are COVID times, so we don't even know what to do. Other than that, if we were meeting at a particular point to even do acclamation, maybe you program to do it in the afternoon. What we may have to do is to provide food and water, right? And because people come from all manner of places and communities, they come by trotros, they come by taxis. We give them something for transportation. Those ones you will do realistically. But if it has to be 3,000, 4,000, as you are saying to me, a television set, as you are saying to me, a refrigerator, I don't want to believe that is true. But if it is true, how do we carry the refrigerator from the center to your house? On your head? I mean, it's ridiculous. Some of them you hear, because the last time, for the first time ever since I got elected to represent my constituency, the last time was 2016, in the lead up to the elections, 3 people came to contest me. That was the first time after my entry into Parliament that I was contested. And people were saying to me that your contestants are paying 1,000 per head. Some people were saying that they had been promised television sets. Sometimes they want to goad you on to do that. Okay. I didn't do that. And when we went there was nothing like that. So people raise these issues. But in any event, if you have, let's say, 850 delegates, and you are giving, as you are saying, about 4,000 per head, and you have, some of them have 1,000 delegates. 4,000 times 1,000, that is 4 million. And coming to Parliament for 4 years, we're not going to have one half of that. We're not going to have 1/4 of it.
People have sponsors.
Well, but does it make sense?
You tell me.
Does it make sense to pay 1 million Ghana cedis, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, only to come to Parliament and for the 4-year term, for your salary, have less than 1 million? Does it make sense? That tells us that as a country, we are shifting focus. It feeds into what I said. That are we concentrating on competence or the size of the wallet of a person?
Great. So you heard the Honourable Oseche Mensah Bonsu there speaking to Johnny Hughes regarding a number of issues, including vote buying. We do have Godfred Tanam, our correspondent, currently at Dome Kwabenya constituency, and I will be going there quickly. But Mr. Benefson, when I come back, we'll definitely speak about the vote buying issue as well. We are not ready for Godfred yet, are we? Very well. We are trying to establish contact with our correspondent there. So we'll be going to the Dome Kwabenya constituency, and there we have that fierce competition between Sarah Adjoa Safo and then the ambassador to India, Michael Okwe Jr., who is also okay. Very well. So Godfred is on. Let's take a listen to Godfred. Hello.
The majority leader, and Michael Okwe is the Ghana High Commissioner to India. These three people are contesting each other, and in the constituency, 1,175 people or delegates are expected to vote in 10 centers, and currently we are located at the Taifa South, where one of the centers is here, and then also at the St. Dominic Catholic Church. So far, over 57 people have voted at the Taifa South Center here, and 125 delegates are expected to vote at this particular center. And we have another center named Taifa North, and 88 delegates are supposed to vote at that particular center too. And currently people are voting, and everything is calm here, and nothing so far has happened, and security is here to make sure that everything goes on well. So far, when it comes to the COVID-19 safety protocols, each and everyone here is wearing a face mask, and the delegates who also come to vote also make sure that they are wearing their face masks. But when it comes to washing of hands, that is one thing that is lacking here. We can see sanitizer here, where the delegates sanitize their hands after they finish voting, and then we have soap here and then tissue. But what is lacking here is a Veronica bucket to make sure that people wash their hands. When I tried finding out, I was told that they are trying to get a Veronica bucket here. That is why they have a soap. They have soap and then sanitizer here, so that people will be able to wash their hands when they finish voting. But so far, the over 56 people who have voted here have not washed their hands. Some don't even sanitize their hands, and then there's nobody who is there to even instruct them, to tell them that they should sanitize their hands before they leave. Some come, they see it, and then they do. Others don't do, because nobody is telling them to sanitize their hands. So far, that is what is going on here. 125 people are supposed to vote here at the Taifa South, 88 at Taifa North, and over 57 have voted here at the Taifa South electoral area, and that is exactly what is going on. So everything is peaceful here, and then the security, we have 2 policemen here who are also making sure that everything goes on well. So far, that is what is happening here at Taifa in the Dome Kwabenya constituency, where Sarah Adjoa Safo, the deputy majority leader, and then Michael Okwe Jr., the High Commissioner, Ghana High Commissioner to India, are contesting each other, and we will be monitoring every situation here. So far, we've not cited any of the aspirants who are contesting. We'll make sure that we get in touch with them, and also visit the coalition center when the election is done, and bring you up to date as to who is leading and who is not. From the Dome Kwabenya constituency here in Accra, Godfred Tanam for TV3 News.
Great. So that was Godfred Tanam, our correspondent there at one of the polling stations within the Dome Kwabenya constituency, specifically Taifa. We're grateful to him for that. Well, he says everything is going on well, except for that disturbing piece about the non-compliance with the COVID protocols. Obviously, this is a major no-no, but we need to look at that. I know I talked about the fact that we'll be looking at the vote buying thing, but please, let's flag that. I have that flagged. We'll look at that definitely, because that's a bigger issue. But now, specifically looking at the Dome Kwabenya issue here regarding the COVID-19 protocols not being complied with, Ms. Epson.
Abna, it shows the wider problem that we have. This is a specific event. 125 people to vote. They're not observing the protocols. Can you imagine our markets? Can you imagine our centers? I think that the government has to find a way of forcing people indirectly. For example, markets are the greatest source of non-compliance. If you are the market woman and somebody is come to buy and is not in a face mask, don't sell. If you sell, gradually the market should be closed down. Taxi drivers, if somebody is boarding your car and the person has got a face mask, and you pick the person, when you are stopped, you will refund the person's money, and you will lose out. I think that people are taking these things easy. And that, for me, is the greatest fear with this COVID-19 thing, that people think that it's for them, that, oh, if you travel and come,
that's just not right. And for me, my concern, Dr. Ali said clearly, looking at that particular polling station, you could say it is, if you like, it's a regulated area, and so things should be done in a proper way. Benson, you're talking about the markets. Definitely that you would say people are on their own.
But here, even this.
Exactly.
This is what is happening. How much more?
It's quite worrying. Raising questions about
like the market.
Exactly. Raising questions about December 7th elections. Hopefully by then COVID would have, or would have found some vaccine. But otherwise, we would have to go to the polling stations to do, what we need to do regarding COVID protocols. And if this is what is going to play out there, then what kind of situation do we find ourselves in?
I'm not sure whether it's the responsibility of the EC or the MPP to provide that. But I think this is just a pilot of what is likely going to happen in our national voter registration exercise, but also in the December elections.
Right.
And this shows that even though on paper and per the announcement of the president and other people, we are supposed to strictly observe the COVID protocols in all polling stations when we are waiting or when we are voting, there's a tendency that people won't do it.
Yeah.
And this is even in Accra, where we can see and report. How about in other places? It's going to be nationwide. Other places where this is not going to happen. And when two or more people gather, it's a hot spot for these things for the pandemic to spread. Especially where it has to do with people touching, people tampering, people being verified. So I think we have to take this seriously. Other than that, we'll exercise our democratic right, and then we'll be buried after that.
Yes, that's definitely, it's a very worrying situation that we find ourselves, because I looked at the guidelines that was issued by the Secretary of the NPP, Mr. John Boydu. He indicated that, yes, they were going to comply strictly with all of these. And look at what we are saying. Bantama, fine, we saw the Veronica buckets and all of that going on nicely. But in Accra, Taifa, this is definitely not on. We are calling on, whoever is responsible to get their act together and fix this. This is definitely not on. But moving away from the COVID-related issues, now let's look at the personalities involved in the personalities involved in the Dominic Kwabena constituency competition, as it were. You're looking at the Ghana's High Commissioner to India, Mike Okwe Jr., and he obviously is the son of the Speaker of Parliament, coming up against the incumbent, Adwoa Safo, who is the Minister of State for Procurement. And she is a second-term incumbent, and the two of them are going against each other for the second time. It's definitely a hot one. Mr. Benson, your thoughts on this?
Before I go on to Dominic Kwabena, I think that quite a number of Ghanaians will be seeing how the protocols have been observed. And if they have not been observed well, there could be the tendency
to stay away
of people not going out to register.
Yes.
Apathy. Why should I go out and risk my life? Dominic Kwabena, I think that until Canada Japan mounted a strong campaign for Adwoa Safo was on verge of losing. Canada has turned himself into like a popularity booster. He's also been to Asokwa to campaign for Katie Hammond. So I think that Kennedy's campaign for Adwoa might tilt the scales in favor of Adwoa Safo. Adwoa Safo initially had problems because in the elections for the constituency executives, he backed a team and the team lost. So those who came in obviously realized that he wasn't for them. So he's been trying to claw back, but Kennedy's campaigns in the last week, this week running up to this voting today, has kind of injected some. And you think because Kennedy is liked by the grassroots,
right?
And that's why he had to shuttle between Dominic Kwabena and Adansi Asokwa.
Very well. So you think that would do the trick for the incumbent? Now, Doc, your thoughts on that? Now, this is a second time they are coming up against each other. Earlier on, I believe some of the concerns about Mr. Michael Kwe had to do with the fact that, well, you are the son of the speaker. Now, your father was the MP, now speaker. You want to also come, I mean, one family, what kind of thing? What are you trying to do? All those concerns. do you think they would still impact?
Yeah, I think if they are contesting for the second term, it means both candidates will be privy to the strategy of the other. So it can even help make the competition more stiffer. But I think by virtue of the fact that your dad has ever been an MP for that area, and your dad is the third most strongest person in the country, does not automatically translate his experience and his competence to you as a son. So I think what we are looking at in an issue-based democratic dispensation is the ability, the competence, and the power of the individual to represent the constituency more than your affinity with powerful people. In politics, those kind of networks work. Elite consensus and elite networking is one of the safest way to project people in our third world political dispensation. But people can also get angry about that because they think that, do you think your family is the only family that is qualified to represent the constituency? So
and in our scheme of things, people look at it as an opportunity to, as it were, chop.
Yes.
So you think it's for your family to come and chop.
Definitely. People think that, there are equally competent people in the constituency who can represent our interests other than this particular family. So it's kind of positive and negative. But the only breakthrough in this 50-50 kind of competitiveness between people seeing your family hierarchy as a disadvantage and people seeing it as an advantage is the competence of the candidate.
Right.
So once people can see that, irrespective of your family background, you as an individual is competent, you are up to the task, they can pose confidence in you. But if you just want to use the name of your father to sail through, and people don't see that element of competence and credibility that your father have translated into you by birth, then it becomes very difficult.
Right.
So if you ask me, I think it's not going to be easy. But this one, I can a little bit stretch my hand and said, I will likely Adjwasapo wins.
Yeah, this is the first prediction from Dr. Ali Seidu. I mean, that's a good one. Okay, so we'll take note of that and see how that plays out. But let's look at this. Michael Quay, definitely outside of the jurisdiction most of the time, given his portfolio. Would you think that has affected, and this is to you, Mr. Benefit, his ability to be on the ground, to mobilize, his team and all of that for this campaign?
Not that much. He had people who were here, who were doing things on his behalf. There were reports of Joseph allegedly going even, the speaker lives in the constituency, and going there and saying that the roads he built, there were a lot of hostilities, and that mistake of backing a group of executives who lost, that was appearing to be her undoing until Kennedy went and gave a jab of support.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Which you think is likely to turn things around. So for the both of you are sticking your necks out for the incumbent, Adjwasapo. I'm saying both of you are sticking your necks out for the incumbent, Adjwasapo. Very well. We will look at that. We'll be moving on next to look at Adenta constituency as well. That's another hotspot we've identified where we have the incumbent, Yabuabing Asamoah, who's the communications director of the NPP, going up against Emmanuel Kwesi Mante, Frida Ijeman Sapong, Alfred Abibio Kumi, and as indicated to us earlier on in the show by Alfred, just yesterday, we had one other person joining us to make 4 people coming up against the Honorable Yabuabing Asamoah. We will take a break at this point. When we come back, our experts here would take a dive into the Adenta constituency and let us know how the dynamics would work out. They can stay with us. We'll be back to
Rado, rado, rado.